Work Youth and College Division Field Director. Let's give him a hand. And the purpose of this panel is to speak on the state of black men. That is not something that you hear young people talking about every day. So for a young person to have it in their mind to bring black men to this table, and each of these black men are different in their own way, in their own respect, in their own respective person, and they're going to tell you who they are. And they are some amazing black men that are standing across this wall here. Let's give them a hand for just standing. So as Usman is coming up, they're going to go forth in this panel. I want to thank you all for joining us. This panel is going to be about an hour, and then from here we're going to transition back into the main ballroom for the talent show. All right? All right, y'all give Usman a hand one more time.
Thank you, Christian. No justice? No justice? So this panel came about by me, Felivi, and JT. We saw that, there's an attack on black people, but there's an attack on black men. And our young people need people to look up. Our young people need people to look up to so they can be something, so they know what's good and what's bad and how to be better. So the only way we can do that if we have people from the older generation, people who we consider OGs and respectable and credible, so that they can help drop these gems on us. So I'll ask every single person who's a panelist, please walk by up here so we can start this panel because the people are waiting. Give him a hand, please.
I think we're missing a chair.
This panel. The purpose of this panel is to actively involve black men of various ages and backgrounds in identifying the primary concerns of our community and that's affecting black men in America, and determining the most effective strategies for addressing them. To achieve this goal, we will ensure that there's a diverse representation upon this panel, because this approach is crucial as it allows for a comprehensive understanding of the challenges faced by black men. By incorporating these perspectives, we can develop a more nuanced diagnosis of the issues and explore wider ranges of potential solutions. Furthermore, we will be discussing civic engagement, political engagement, voter disenfranchisement, the 2024 elections, and further political goals beyond that, because our goals don't just go to 2024, it exceeds and goes beyond that as a people. So what I first want you all to do, please introduce yourselves, your names, your backgrounds, what you do, who you are, and what's your why for showing up today and contributing to this panel. We can start from the right and then bring it all down.
Good afternoon, Dr. Dennis B. McKeezy, 30 years educator from school aid teacher, assistant principal, executive director. Now I'm running an organization of principals across the nation that are really setting forth the agenda to make sure that we normalize giving kids equitable, opportunities in education as well as community development.
Hey y'all, I'm Mikkel C. Clark. I am first and foremost a father, a husband, and I'm a writer. I published a book called Eyes on the Road this time last year. It's about mindfulness, and as an overthinker, I do a lot of just thinking about what it's like to be the father of a black girl in this world that we are surviving.
Peace and blessings, everyone. I'm Terrence Floyd, the brother of George Floyd. I'm also the founder of my nonprofit organization, We Are Floyd. And my reason for being here is I'm a black man, so why not talk about it?
Peace and blessings. My name is Styles P. I am a rapper, and I am also a health advocate, owner of Juices for Life and Pharmacy for Life, and I'm here because I love y'all.
Good afternoon. I didn't hear good afternoon back. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Now we talking. My name is Phil Tate. I'm a reporter with WABC, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Brooklyn, born and bred. I've grown up coming to conferences like the National Action Network, definitely happy for these spaces. I have a community give back in Brooklyn called Dream, Reach, Inspire, which is all about showing young people all that they can become. Exposure is key, and making sure that they have the keys to life. My why of showing up here today, I am a black man. I am one of not too many. I see myself in many spaces that I'm in, and all the time I'm continually trying to be around communities like this where I can be embraced and also where I can give back.
Peace and blessings, family.
Peace and blessings.
May the peace, mercy, and blessings from the owner of all peace, mercy, and blessings be upon y'all. Y'all know my story. I'm one of the formerly known members of the Central Park Five, now known as the Exonerated Five, and now also known as the councilman for the 9th District. So I'm here because y'all, I'm one of y'all. I don't even want to say y'all voted for me, right? I'm here because, as I've been saying, those who have been close to the pain have to have a seat at the table. And who better than a person who's been in pain, but who's been able to, by the grace of God, this is not me, but this is by the grace of God, my mind is intact, my body is intact. I'm taking some of the Juices for Life, Pharmacy for Life stuff right now, black seed and all of that good stuff, sour sap and sea moss. Y'all gotta get some. I'm telling y'all, this stuff is wonderful. Like, it's real talk. We don't talk about health. You know what I'm saying? We don't talk about health. I get my packages. It's worth it. I'm gonna say that. But my why is because I don't want there ever to be another Central Park Five. They said never again. They said never again with the Scottsboro Boys. But yet we became the modern day Scottsboro Boys. And when I think about what's at stake, they want us to believe that we were an anomaly. I represent the microcosm of the macrocosm of people just like me. And I think that's why my story resonates so much, because people see themselves in me. So thank you for standing up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. We need this.
Grace and peace, all. My name is Billy Council, entrepreneur, former athletic director, former college basketball coach, founder of the Council Him Foundation, and the founder of Sunday Dinner, which is a speak space for black men to come and congregate to talk about issues that's plaguing us in our community. My why is because we stand on the shoulders of greatness. And I'm here with my brothers on this panel right here to help change the narrative of what it is to be a black man growing up in our communities. Thank you.
That was powerful. Thank you very much. Now that we got the introductions out the way, housekeeping out the way, I want to ask, what's the pressing issue that you think is facing black men, not just black men in generality, but young black people too? What you think the problem is?
I started. I think one of the things that's plaguing our young men is we took away their voices. As older adults, as older colleagues, as older mentors, we stop listening to what they feel and how they feel. And we try to come in with our own antidote to solve their problems. So I think one of the things that we have to do is start turning back the times and listening, because at one point, every man that's in this room right here, there was a young black boy that was broken, And what happened, our broken boys became broken men, and we forgot how to go back and get and heal the younger generation. So I think that's one of the things that we have to start doing, is start listening and being a vessel for our young people.
The one thing I see in these, that's pressing on these young men is suffering in silence. Because I see certain ones, they join these gangs and they want to be in the streets because nobody's listening to them, and they have other underlining issues where they may not have a father in the home, or they may be being abused, but they don't know how to talk about it. And that's what I try to do. I try to see these fellas in my neighborhood and just stop them, whether they go into the store, and just talk to them, because you never know, that could be they could be contemplating suicide, because they're suffering in silence, and that's one of the main things that I see pressing on my young brothers.
Can I just add to that? When I think about my upbringing, I think about primarily how, as a young 15-year-old, by the way, this is on April 19th, 1989, it's going to be 35 years since the Central Park jogger case. I turned 50 this year.
Wow.
So I was 15 when this first happened. What they wanted me to believe, really what they wanted me to accept, was a definition of myself that my family, that my mother, that my father, and my ancestors had not given me. And that definition was a definition that I was born a mistake. I want y'all to consider this. They want us to believe that we are born mistakes, and there are no mistakes. Like when God created us, we were one of over 400 to 500 million options. And we were chosen. When God said be, when God said kun to us, we were. And so we need to know that we were not born a mistake, that we were born on purpose, because if we believe that we are born mistakes, we move throughout our life as if we are mistakes. And by the time we realize that we have been digging in the wrong ditch, it's too late. Our young men their minds are not fully developed according to science, in the worst case, until they're 27 years old. So we got to have grace and mercy with our young people in particular. We can't be afraid. When they look at me, when they look at the exonerated 5, they be like, man, them dudes right there, we are just you. When they look at me, God is trying to teach you that what you believe was the impossible holds the words, I'm possible. So you're possible. Our young people need to know this. Like one of the things, like the gang life, just the whole way that they have been, I'm trying to remember the word. It's about how they're educated. That's not the word that they use, but I found a better word than just education. But the way we're educated causes us to see the picture and not see ourselves in it. And so when we're looking at history, we see ourselves as not being valuable because we're not in the history picture. When we see anything, right now, when folks left the room to get with the panelists that were just on the stage, when we leave the room and folks are going to want to take pictures with us, the very first thing you will do when you get home is look for yourself in that picture. Imagine when you don't see yourself in the history of who you are. You got to believe through a Sankofa vision. Return and get it. You are great. There are no mistakes. You are the impossible. That's what that's about.
I'm going to slide in next. I'll add, I think a big issue I see facing young black boys today is exceptional expectations without exceptional support systems. I think that everyone in here is going through it, being black and surviving, being black and trying to find peace, being black and just trying to make it in whatever way. And so we don't have the capacity to give the youth that we're around what they need. We don't have time and space and energy and resources to be able to show up and say, this is how it works, this is how you do it, here's how you hold yourself accountable, it's how you take care of yourself. And so I think that there is just a lack of capacity across the board, across generations, for all sorts of black folks to be able to show up for themselves and for the younger folks that are around them.
One of the things I would say, I would see weighing on a lot of young people is lack of hope, lack of vision. No faults of theirs, but lack of hope and a lack of vision. If we have a vision, we know where we're trying to get to. I know my mother, she didn't play games with me. My mother said, we have a goal at the end of the day. We want to make sure that we can get you through high school. We can get you to college. You're not going to be playing around on these streets. You're going to do what you need to do. So if we have a direction, and if we have a sense of direction on where we're trying to get to, as we've heard already, of who we are, of whose we are, then the way we look at ourselves, the way that we go out into the world will be completely different. You know, we could sit up here, we could talk about many of the structures of this country, unfortunately, that have plagued black and brown communities when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to employment, when it comes to us being able to get economic wealth. We know that owning a home is a game changer even for generational wealth, but if we're looking at how communities of color where insurance rates are completely different to other communities. Right? So many times, brothers like me, we're all looking around trying to do this for the first time, and many times just have a straight up question mark. Right? And the question mark, it's not fault of ours, it's just a fault of, unfortunately, of the systems of this country. And many times, I think if we don't have that vision, if we don't have that plan, then many times what happens? We become discouraged, right? I think what happened in 2020, Terrence Floyd is a really great friend of mine. In the protest, I was working at News 12, and each and every day I identified very early on that, yes, people were protesting for what happened to George Floyd and to Breonna Taylor and to Ahmaud Arbery, right? All these things that we saw them out there for each and every day. But another part of that as to why they were out there, because many times people told me that they were sick and tired of the practices of this country that would not allow them to even get a leg up, right? And people say, oh, we can pull ourselves up. Well, if you don't have a strap to pull yourself up, how do you expect to get there?
You know, I'll just jump in real quick. Representation matters. And I want people to understand that as grim as it may seem at times for our black boys, I think all they have to do at times is look at people like us that's on this panel. I think oftentimes we focus so much on the things and the people that aren't doing right. You know, it's not often that you get a chance to be amongst people who've gone through some things and then look at what's happening across this nation and say, well, wait a minute, why isn't anybody sharing the great news about black history and black boys and black girls and things like that? You know, people don't know, just even recently, there's a 13-year-old boy in Oklahoma City who graduated from junior college. Nobody talks about that because the algorithms of Instagram don't push that. There was a 15-year-old girl who graduated with her master's degree, and she's 16 years old, and she's the first black third-grade teacher in New York, in America. I want people to understand that what we got to remember is that we have to begin to unite and marry human and artificial intelligence. We can't continue to just flick on social media and not think it's not designed for it to be what it is right now. It's designed to show us the side of Styles P that most people don't even know about. It's designed for them not to know that he cares about the community. It's designed for them not to know that he and all the other hip-hop artists and everybody out here that's doing great things, it's not by chance or by circumstance that they're sitting here telling you that there's a problem in black America. If you look here on this panel right now, we're doing something about it, each and every one of us in our own right, but we're not getting that space to speak of it. So when you want to start to move the agenda forward, stop sharing certain things on Instagram and Facebook. Stop sharing the negativity that's happening on social media and start pushing and sharing those things that give us the true understanding of what blacks are doing in this country. I refuse, as somebody who grew up not far from Styles P. I grew up in Mount Vernon, and I understood at that particular moment that I had a choice, and so did everybody else that was with me. We had a choice to make. I made a choice. I went and got my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate degree. I want to be the living example of young people to see what greatness looks like. Listen, I'll say this one last thing. I'm not here to posture before people about my experiences or about my accomplishments. I'm here to let everybody know that there are great black men out here doing great things for the community, and I'm standing up as one of them today.
Powerful. Now I say the list is too long because you just heard 6 great minds give you 6 good reasons. There's a lot more reasons, but here's another thing that's against the young black man. As my brother was saying, it's the algorithm. Because what's against the young black man is him understanding the power of the black family. If you go on social media today, somehow they have pitted the black man against the black woman. We are all together. You can't make a black man without a black woman. You know what I mean? So I think the structure of the family and what the family is about has been taken from these young men. There's not enough examples, like my brother say, of them understanding, okay, we can't be against each other. Most likely if you got here from a black man and a black woman. So we have to understand that we're in it together, and we have to be examples for the young fellas to say, you know, that's your queen right there. You're a king. Together, you're either going to make a prince or a princess, and your family is royalty. So that's what the black community is missing as young people. We've focused on money too much and what the white man's doing. And no disrespect to the white man or what they're doing, but what black people do runs the world. That's right. And I think we forget that. I think we forget the soul of what black people is about. And now they got us in some kind of rat race, and it doesn't have to be like that. We have to make sure our young men and young queens know they're not pitted against each other, that we're all in it together. And I think it's a lot more issues, but we're here covering them.
No doubt.
We have a panel going on today, y'all. Give them a round of applause again, please. I want to touch on what you just said. With times changing, people think that responsibilities is also changing. So how do we as black men show up in the community, show up for our families, and then how do we use that towards nation building and coming together and coalescing as a community?
My answer would be learn how to take care of yourself first. That's something else they didn't teach us in the community. As black men, you always have a pressure on you that you can't cry, you can't be upset, you can't be soft, you can't do this, and then things weigh down on your mental and you don't know how to express yourself or handle yourself. Now you're looking at black women who make more money than you. Now you're feeling like if you don't have a certain amount of dollars, you're not relevant. So the first part is taking care of yourself. Once you learn to do that, then you take care of your significant other, your immediate household, then your friends, then your community. And I think if we wake up thinking in that order every day, things gradually advance. And then on top of that, to know that we don't own the media. That we don't own the media, so there's a lot of great black men, a lot of great black women, a lot of great black families that you don't get to see because, as my brother was saying, the algorithm is set for you to think we're behind the 8 ball all the time. It may be 60-40, but our 40 is very powerful. And our 40 runs the world. And without us running the world, if it ain't no black folks, the food's gonna be horrible. Ain't gonna be no dancing, ain't gonna be no singing, ain't gonna be no joyous good times. Like, we are a powerful people, and I think we gotta take notion of that, wake up, own that you're a king. Like, one thing I see, I'm from a community, a lot of us address each other nowadays as kings. My brother, nigga ain't so as popular as it used to be. And that's the thing they ain't saying. Nigga ain't as popular. Ain't nobody really too often going, what up, my nigga? Now it's what up, brother? What's up, king? What's up, beloved? And these are things we need to highlight and keep going on, you know?
You know, and taking from what Styles is saying, you know, one of the things we just simply got to do is just get out there and do it. Go out there and be it. Go out there and look like it. You see, there is this mindset that, again, that we have to be controlled by what happens on social media. The thing is, all we got to do is look in our community. Not everybody's out there selling drugs. Not everybody's out there doing the wrong thing. And I need everybody in here who's been on this earth more than a couple of years to be able to say, you know what? Congratulations, my brother. Congratulations, my king. Congratulations, my queen. Everything that's happening in our communities is as a result of what we allow for them to tell is happening in our community. Let me, you know, something that Styles just said that was so important. You know, I'm good, you know, really close friends with Dame Dash, and Dame has just started his own network called America New. And one of the things that people don't talk about when we say, you know, Styles was saying is that we don't have our own network. Go and check what Dame Dash is doing. The Dame Dash, not the Dame Dash they show on social media, the Dame Dash who he and I was out in Chicago yesterday fighting for the kids that are locked up in prison that are living in deplorable conditions. That Dame Dash. We're talking about the Styles P who worries not only about what happens in hip hop, but happens in the community when we're talking about Juices for Life. I want people to really understand that the importance of just getting out in the community and just being who they are, and allowing people to understand that, guess what, when it's all said and done, it's not who they say we are. It's who we say we are. So however we plan to address ourselves is how they're going to continue to address us. If you want to keep calling each other the N-word, they're going to start getting comfortable calling you the N-word. When you in a community where you start calling each other kings and queens, eventually they ain't got no choice but to be conscious enough to say the same thing, because they know you don't even fit in this conversation no more. So as I think about this thing from an educational perspective. For 30 years, I've watched a lot of great things happen in education. They oftentimes say there isn't enough black men and not black people in education. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. If I have to be there and I have to grab the other brothers that I got from across the nation and I put them in this room, there's enough black male educators in this country that can make a huge difference. But guess what? It's never going to be shown on social media. So what I will tell you is that the numbers that they say is not really the numbers that they say. As Styles said, it's 60-40. Listen, they'll make you believe it's 90-10. You got a brother right there. You see that brother right there in the front? That's an assistant principal right there. That brother right there. I know him personally. A black male as an assistant principal. But you wouldn't know that. Stand up, brother. Stand up, Carl. This brother right there is an assistant principal right here in the Bronx. And I'm highlighting that because we oftentimes get told who we are. And many times we actually start to believe it. I stand up here with some powerful brothers, man. I mean, we could go on tour together, you know, and really let the world know what's going on. Because this is not just here. We didn't come up here to posture and to tell you how great we are. We came here because we wanted to make a difference. And I stand here as somebody who says, listen, anything that needs to be done to help our black boys understand their potential, count me in, 110%.
All right. With this question, I'm going to have to put the dad hat on. Foundation begins at home. As a black man, I have 3 children. I teach them how to be their kings, and I have 2 kings and 1 queen. You know, and I make them feel special. I make them understand that they can communicate with me. Because if you don't do these things at home with your own children and go outside and try to talk to the young people out there, you look like a hypocrite. No doubt. You know, because you'll be talking to them outside and they see your kid, they see your child over there doing something, and they look at you like, so why are you talking to me? You need to talk to him. You know, so that's why I start at home. You know, my son is a certified electrician at 21 years old. You know, my 2 youngest, they too young to understand things, but they still doing their thing. They still know they could come home and talk to daddy. They can ask me questions. Then they know if the teacher say something and they don't understand it, they'll ask me. Now, I'm not going to go against the teacher, but I'm going to tell you the real. And then when they go back to the teacher and tell them, they're not going to press me because they said, my daddy said. And that's why you have to give them the confidence. That's what it is. You have to teach them the confidence, because a lot of these young brothers and sisters out here don't have the confidence, the self-esteem, they don't even have goals. You know, you have to really teach that to them and explain it to them and let them explain themselves to you. And you have to listen. And that's how they relate to you, by you listening. And that's how I feel we're going to change our community.
Let me add this in there. We have digital influencers here. We have news anchors here. We have storytellers here. How do we reclaim that narrative? Where do we enter the system in reclaiming that narrative? And like you said, the brother said on the other end, Dame Dash is creating his own network. And should that be the platform we should use going now on to reshape and reclaim our narratives?
I think we need more African Americans at the helm. We need more African Americans at the table, more African Americans who can better, dictate might be the wrong word to use, but to better steer the conversation in the right direction. I think we need to get rid of this idea black men are not here, black men are not showing up, right? Because we can go to Crown Heights, we can go to Bed-Stuy, we can go to the Bronx, and I can find a lot of black men that have showed up for my generation, and also young people who are also doing great things for those who are to come. How do we show up even with the roles that we're in? It's with the stories that we choose to tell. It's making sure that we're uncovering stories that might have been passed off and going to those who are in positions of power to say, I think that there's a story here. Let's go talk to some teachers in Brooklyn about the power of black representation in the classroom. Let's go to hospitals and let's talk about healthcare rates and why access and opportunity isn't where it's supposed to be. Let's go to colleges and let's talk about why certain statistics might show that young black men aren't enrolling in college. And then let's talk about why it's so hard for them to get there. So when we talk about getting that narrative back, right, it starts with us. It starts with us doing the extra legwork to make sure that we're all on this mission together and that we all play a specific part. And it doesn't matter whether you are at the top of the totem pole, if someone would say that's where you are, or if you might have a position that someone might think isn't of importance. We all play a specific part. My mother would tell me that when I go out of her house, that I represented her. It was the way that I spoke to people. It was the way that I dressed. She said that was a form of good manners. But if we learn that basis, then when we get into these positions, it won't be so hard.
Facts, King. I want to say you worded that wrong, because it's how do we continue to reclaim it, because you, look at you. You set this panel up. Look at the room, young man. You set this panel up. You called the OGs here. So it's already happening. It's how do we make it continue to happen, because you're a young king that set up something great for his community. So I think often as black people, we don't pat ourselves on the back enough. And we listen to what everybody else is saying to us, and we act like we're not doing anything right. You set up something beautiful. You set this panel up. You're a young black man. We're all us 7 gentlemen are older than you. But you had the sense, the knowledge, the compassion, and the care for your community to get these people here today to have us talking. So it's not how do we reclaim it, it's how do we continue to reclaim it and then promote that and get that out to our people, because thank you.
You see, I'm learning in real time. That's what the panel is for. Learning. So I could take this information and go give it back to my peers and people in my community. So thank you for that. Yes, anybody else want to tackle the question?
I just want to chime in real quick, because that's so powerful. That's so powerful. I was looking for something, and it caused me to realize that what I had said earlier today in my book of poems is so relevant to the narratives that we tell ourselves. Because let me just read this real quick. I said this before whoever was here in the room. I said, I wrote this when I was in prison. And in the times where I was the strongest, I wrote. And when the times when I was the weakest, I reached for what I wrote to resuscitate the life that was still here. This is called Heartbeat. We are at war, the bulk of which will not be physical, the bulk of which is mental. Psychological warfare to make me accept you as better, like your ice is cooler or water wetter. They're holding court in the streets. This time court will be sweet. We will not accept defeat. The signal will be your heartbeat. And I say that because when we think about, oh man, humble. But when we think about the narratives, we come from, we know this. We know this. We know that his story is whose story? The narrative that we are being fed is whose narrative? So the trick of this is this, and this is like so beautiful because even the part about schooling, my mother, before I got arrested for a crime I didn't commit, in a community that we're taught you're going to be dead or in jail before you reach the age of 21. My mother had a parallel education going on in my home. Yeah, we went to school, but when we came home, we was reading about Grecian art. We was reading about Phoenicians. We was reading about the real Egyptians. We was reading about Africa. We was reading about the history of who we are. So that whenever they felt like they were going to put their hands on me and try to arrest my development, guess what kicked in? The memory that my mother put there. And what added to that was the fact that my grandmother, God bless her, she's not here with us. My grandmother used to write me when I was in prison, and I had to do the knowledge on this. I said, she wrote me letters that I always got. Our letters are molested. They're read before we got them. They're always open. The letters, I always got these letters, and guess who they were addressed to? Master Yusef Salam. I'm in the prison, and the guards had to read, this letter is to Master Yusef Salam. They sent it to me. My grandmother was telling them who I was. And my grandmother was reminding me when I read those words, whose I was.
Right.
And so we gotta do we gotta do the knowledge again. This stuff is here and we've already been blessed with it. What they have been doing is trying to disconnect the deoxyribonucleic acid running in our veins, that thing called DNA. They want us to forget. They want us to believe that there's greener grass on a whole different side. We are the grass. The very essence of who we are is the why we're here. And that's the part that has to never be taken for granted as well. That part.
It's funny because, the questions I tailored was just like this. And it's like God plans and man plans and God laughs, And I'm happy that I was able to walk in God's divine intention for me and tailor these specific questions like this. And the next question I have is mental health. We spoke about not just mental health, but physical health, mental health, because the panelists, y'all all spoke a lot about health. So where do we implement that in our community, especially on the mental health part? We destigmatize it because a lot of us, when we hear mental health, that's like a foreign word to us. And how do we combat that stigma, and how do we better speak about it?
So it's interesting. I'm going to say two things, right? When we talk about mental health, sometimes it's a cliche, and then we use mental health sometimes as an excuse. So a quick story. Growing up in Harlem, I wound up getting shot 6 times. And I had to learn how to eat, use the bathroom, walk, talk. All of that stuff I did in rehab, but I never dealt with my mental health. So when I say a broken boy became a broken man, I'm that little broken boy who's still broken because I still haven't repaired my trauma. So when that mental health aspect kicks in with our young people, oh, we got a lot of work to do, right? And we have to look at the healthcare system. We have to see how they deem black people when it comes down to mental health. We've been dealing with mental health since the 1800s during slavery. And we still fighting that. So in our community, when they sit there and say that black folks have mental health issues, now we have life issues between that mental health stuff. So let's take that back a little bit. Right? So one of the things that we have to deal with, we have to do is recognize that it exists within us. So I created this speak space called Sunday Dinner. And it's spelled son because everyone at that dinner is a son. And when we having those conversations, we have men in there crying because they don't know how to deal with it. Because they can't go to their wives, they can't go to their brothers, they can't go to their mothers and talk about it. Because we are left to be strong black men. But nah, we gotta be who we are. We have to be allowed to be weak and vulnerable. So we can sit up here and on this stage and all 7 of my brothers, we deal with something. And when that mental health crisis kick in for us, first thing they say is we crazy. Nah, we ain't crazy, we just sick and tired.
No doubt.
So when I listen to Dr. Salam and Dr. Dennis, friends, one of the things that I know is that the fight in our community when it comes down to mental health is serious. It's serious. So when we talk about COVID, nah, man, we were kind of in trouble before COVID. That's right. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this to each and every one of us in here, man, woman, child, deal with yourself first. Give yourself grace and give yourself gratitude.
That's what's up, Billy. You know, Bill, what's so dope about that is that the answer to the question is really about being willing to go through your own therapy, getting counsel, being able to pull up on your brothers and check on them as well. You know, what we've been taught in many of our communities is that, again, if you go seek therapy, you crazy. One of the things I didn't realize is that I just turned 50, and that was my first time ever being and seeing a therapist. Not for any particular reason other than the fact I just wanted to know why my mind worked the way it does. I just wanted to know that. And then I realized more than anything else, brothers keep a lot inside. We are really great actors of what happens in this world. Trust and believe that we out here hurting. We struggling, but you know what? We put on our face, man, and we put on our mask and we get outside and do what we gotta do. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that. But what we gotta remember too is go seek some therapy. Go seek therapy. And encourage our young brothers to do the same thing too. Like there's nothing wrong. Listen, guess what? If we don't encourage them to go do it, somebody else will. We don't want them to go on somebody else's merit. We don't want them to go on somebody else's thoughts about them. We want them to go voluntarily before they end up shooting somebody, before they kill themselves. We want them to do that before. We want them to seek counsel and therapy before. And each and every person in here who has a child, it is encouraging. It is encouraging to me to tell you, listen, that was the best decision I made in 50 years of my life, is to start to go to therapy. And I want y'all to know that. If you don't walk away with nothing else when we come to this mental health issue, again, we all jacked up. And we've been jacked up for a long time. And oftentimes we didn't speak to somebody until they told us to go speak to somebody. Yo, let's do this thing voluntarily, y'all. There's a lot of good people out here that are just stressed out.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So let's continue to encourage our young people to go seek therapy well before they hit that brick wall.
Wow. Well, what I do is I definitely go, like I said, I go around in the community and speak to these young men and young women. You know, I partner with my sister Tanny with her organization, Steps with Sisters, where they deal with mental health with the women especially, but also the men. And like I said, going back to what I said before, foundation begins at home. Growing up, my mother, you know, growing up in Brooklyn, my mother had this thing, well, not a thing, it was like a session where she gave me 1 hour to tell the truth.
That's a long time.
Need all that hour, too.
Had a lot of conversations.
She said 1 hour to tell the truth. You don't have to worry about no belt, no switch, no nothing. Man, that was good. And when I got all of that out, she said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Oh man, I feel lighter." She said, "That's the power of telling the truth." That's where my therapy and my mental health started. Because I grew up, you know, I want to say sickly, but I was in the hospital a few times and back and forth in the hospital and going through certain things. So my childhood, I really couldn't, you know, play football and stuff like that. So I was wondering why. So my mother always had to encourage me. That's the reason, I think that's probably the main reason why I'm the father I am today. Because I have to focus on my children. I have to make sure they're good. So now I implement that honesty hour with my children, and they take full advantage. Oh man, I think they got more issues than I had. But now my organization, We Are Floyd. I wasn't going to talk about it yet, but I'm going to talk about it. I'm trying to go into schools and implement the honesty hour. I did say this ain't no snitching session. This ain't nothing to be telling me, oh, I got this body, I got that. No. Don't do that. No. You know what I mean? But just come in and express yourself. Let me know how your day was. Let me know what's on your mind. If you don't feel like talking about it, let's just sit and chill. I'm not really a gamer, but I'll let you kick my butt just so you can feel good. You know, stuff like that for that hour. And but that's basically how I'm choosing to attack mental health in my community.
Yo.
I think that we have to continue to validate spaces that have also been very powerful for black men. The basketball court, the barbershop, right? You put some black men in the barbershop, it's gonna be a good conversation, some drinks might come on out. That for me is my weekly therapy when I go to get a cut, right? It's like that's fill time. That's fill time to just sit back, kick and relax, all the pressures of the world. I can just really just be me, just chill out and have that time. But furthermore, even upon that, I think that we also need to validate mental health spaces in our communities, realizing that this is a serious, serious issue and we are not far-fetched from it, right? We've seen many efforts that our city has taken, various pilot programs. Unfortunately, we've also seen those who have had mental health issues that have unfortunately died at the hands of police. because those certain practices may not have been put into place. And we're not just talking about the administration that we currently see in office, but this is going back to previous administrations as well. And it's a serious issue, and I say that because, you know, just about a month ago, I was in a courtroom and I had seen someone sentenced to 25 plus years to life. And on the way back to the station, it had really bothered me. Like, yes, this person had done wrong. And I said to my photographer, I said to them, you know, I wonder what were their warning signs. And, you know, it really, for 25 minutes, I just went on this long rant. And I said to myself, are we paying attention to each other? Are we paying attention to our warning signs? When we see something that's going on with someone that we love, do we tell them? Do we go past the step of that person, it's their life and it's their decision? Sometimes we can be in so much pain that it's hard for us to make those decisions for ourselves. So I would just urge each other that many times when we see something, when we might start to see the first inklings or the first missteps of a bigger situation, let's speak up then. Let's not wait till we're in a poor situation where some bad decisions are irreversible and our lives are completely destroyed.
Powerful, brother.
I love everything being said right now. And if I could just add, I think what I'm thinking about right now is how my bad day impacts your bad day. If I'm grumpy, if I'm sleepy, if I'm tired, you're also grumpy, sleepy, or tired. And we interact and we escalate for no real reason. That can change lives, that can shape days and make everything worse for no reason whatsoever. I'm autistic. I'm neurodivergent. A lot of folks in here are neurodivergent in different ways, which means that our brains are reacting to similar things in very different ways. So sometimes what might feel like a threat or a slight or an insult or a violation of some sort is probably somebody doing their best. And so what I try to do is pause and assume, I'm assuming you're doing your best. I'll try to do my best. And if we can meet in the middle somewhere and de-escalate and find peace and find love, that can change the course of 2 days. We're in better moods. We change the course of 4 more days. Kids see us interact. Again, more things happen. They have better role models during those days. And so thinking about that ripple effect, I think is really powerful. And if we can all do that every day, it's a really different world.
True indeed. Yes, King. That's powerful, and that's very true. I think as people of color, we have to always remember our mental wellness is attached to our physical wellness and spiritual wellness. We keep putting it more like it's in a separate pot. And I'll give you an example. I've lost a daughter to suicide. Any given day, I don't know how I'm exactly going to feel, but then I'm going to give you another example. I have Master Yusuf right here to my left of me. I have Mr. Floyd to my right of me. Think about what they've been through. Think about what Master Yusuf had to go through in his life. Think about what Mr. Floyd had to watch with his family on TV. What kept him strong? The spirit. And the spirit, my spiritual wellness is going to keep me ticking. I'm going to stand tall. I'm going to let my body feel the pain. I'm going to cry, I'm going to yell, I'm going to scream, I'm going to get it out. Then I'm going to realize there's other people that are in the same amount of pain or more pain than I am. And then I'm going to realize that's going around, and then that's going to make my spirit stronger. And as my brother said, I'm going to be mindful of the energy that I'm bringing to someone else. Because once you're mindful of how your spirit is, think about it. Go on social media today. Somebody, they don't even know somebody and they're talking negative to them. You know why? Their spirit's not feeling well. So they want to bring somebody down with them. So I think if we start making sure we understand that all three are tied together, and then look at other people who have been through tragedies and came out of it, and that's going to make us all triumph. And then check on your people, because we have the tendency to say, how you feeling? If he start complaining too much or she start complaining too much, oh, nah, I don't even want to hear this from this person. But be genuine with your intentions when you're asking somebody how they feel. Be genuine with if it is the wrong way, that you have a kind word or a good word, or maybe just a hug. And I think that'll make the world a better place for us brown folks.
Last question, but before we end off, a lot of these issues that's plaguing us, it's not just something that we did to ourselves. There's public policy that goes into how we get these resources or how we don't get these resources. And we have a former city council candidate up here, Billy Council. We have current city councilman, actually my city councilman, Yusuf Salam, up here. And so I want to ask them two first, what's the importance of politics? Or actually, what is politics first? And how should we engage with politics?
So before I answer that question, do you know that only 20% of our community come out to vote in local elections? Right? Where the change begins. Right? So let's just use this. When I ran for city council in Harlem, there's 160,000 people who can register to vote in District 9. The winner only got 4,800 votes.
Shit.
Right? So let's start looking at those numbers, right? So the question when you ask about what is politics, I'll take it further back and I'll say, why are we not civically engaged like we're supposed to be civically engaged? So we can't talk about change if we don't show up to the table. We can't talk about change if we're not engaged. If we can't talk about change if we don't even know who's running. Right? So these are some of the things that we have to do when we start talking about politics, right? We got to start really finding what the real answer is, right? We need to, and I think it's in 1964 when the civil rights movement and everything was going on, we stood tall to get voting rights so we can have someone at that table fighting for us. But it seemed like we're going backwards because now we don't show up, so nobody won't fight for us. So when we start talking about gentrification, we talking about all of these box franchises coming into our communities, let's start looking at ourselves. So we have to start changing the narrative of what it is to be civically engaged into politics.
I kind of want to say what he said. So I did this earlier, and I just read the 13th Amendment. And I read this in prison. I didn't know this existed. I didn't know. 13th Amendment, Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States of America or any place subject to its jurisdiction, except for the punishment of a crime. I was like, what? Slavery is alive. I used to say and well, but then an elder said, no, slavery is alive and sick. And then I realized yes, sir, when I wrote my first published book, Punching the Air, I put this in the book. And then I read the whole amendment, and I didn't realize that Section 2 told the whole story. Section 2 says Congress shall have the power to enforce this article through appropriate legislation. So politics for me, which is why I always say I'm not a politician. I didn't study political science. I was run over by the spike rules of justice. Keith Wright, thank God, came down to where I was living at the time and said, Yusuf, you are our modern day Nelson Mandela. We need you. And that's why I came back. Because see, New York City for me was the scene of the crime. I didn't want to be around, I could tolerate it for a bit. But when he told me that and I realized that everything that I had gone through, I had actually grown through for this very reason. So I had to come back with buckets of water. I had to come back to talk to my community about mental health. I had to talk about it from a different perspective because oftentimes, even when we're consuming things that may make us appear to be out of our minds, I was also taught that perhaps the person who's consuming the drugs might believe more than the person who says that they believe in God. Because every time they open their eyes, they're saying to themselves, this can't be life. Take another sip. Take another. The problem is that We're oversaturated in our communities. So the panel I was on earlier, a young man said to me, can you talk about X, Y, and Z? And I said, well, do me a favor. I'm new to politics. Can you break it down in layman's terms? And he did that. Politics is always this big, giant mountain. They do this, what are we looking for services and support? Oh, it's this thing and that thing. Just break it down. Make people understand that what you just said about the vote and how we show up, we think that non-participation is non-participation. Non-participation is participation. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, guess what? Think about the Miranda warnings, right? Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. What you don't say will be used against you in a court of law. And what they will do is Congress shall have the power to enforce this article through the legislation that they put forth. And that legislation will be overwhelmingly meted out in the black and brown community. We will be looked over, we will be forgotten, but you know what the antidote to that is? Knowing the truth. Knowing that you are somebody. Knowing that you have value. Knowing that you have wealth. That inside of you is all of that which is and which could be. So we have to do the knowledge again and realize that we're right now inside of someone else's plan. Where's our plan? We plan for the weekend. If we good about it, we got a 5-year plan. I need us to plan in 50 to 100-year cycles. I want us to project ourselves into the future so that you look at yourself and say, what is my 50-year-old self going to look like at 15? So now I got to say, what's my 100-year-old self going to look like? I got to think about those who are not yet born. Because I have children. I have 10 children. You know? Listen, y'all ain't right, y'all know I'm a spiritual man. Listen, the good book said be fruitful and multiply. I was just playing my part. Y'all know I was in prison though. But I'm just saying, no, but the reality is this. Those children, my 7 daughters, I have 7 daughters and 3 sons. Those children, I have to be mindful of their children and their children and their children. And we got to plan 7 cycles out. Because let me tell you, those gains that we made, the fact that people stood in lines and decided that I'm going to cast my vote. We got folks that they're trying to make us believe that they just like us. God telling us, man, I'm just like you. I've been indicted. selling us gold sneakers, as if we can somehow click our heels if we put them on and transform our reality. These are trinkets. And so when we talk about the politics of it all, politics was always dirty for me. It was always politricks. I'm going to take that because the brother said it in the audience. Why? Because guess what? That word came out of our community. Because people promised us the moon and they delivered the mud. So now what do we have to do? We got to make it count. We got to make sure that we're not dissuaded by the shiny objects that's trying to take the moment. Because we have to move in a manner that this is a movement and not a moment. We got an opportunity here to shift and ripple into the future so that what we're doing right now, like it might not all change on my watch, right? But guess what? If we move it one step forward and we keep our eyes on the prize, and those of us who are waylaid in the melee, forgive yourself and don't have a pity party. Don't remind yourself about the things that you may have done. Remember who you are now. You're not that person that you was.
Terrence, I also want you to touch on it, especially from a policy perspective, about, your brother was killed in a demonic fashion. They kneed on his neck for close to 9 minutes. And what Master Yusuf just spoke about turning moments into movements, how do we get that legislation, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, passed on a federal level so we can require that no one ever has to go through that again, and if they do, there will be fierce punishments for it?
Well, for one, keep having these conventions. Keep attending these conventions. Keep putting your input in. To me, politics is life. I often said it in interviews that when they ask me questions, I said, without getting too political and stuff like that, but I had to realize what I'm talking about is political.
Politics is everything, everything is politics.
That's right. That was smooth. I like that.
It's a Hall of
But
Fame.
once I understood, to me it was life. I looked at everything different as far as voting. Well, I'm always going to vote, don't get me wrong. But as far as the voting, as far as the census in your neighborhoods, because I'm going to be honest with you, there were times I used to work and the census come and I'd be like, I'll do everything in the last minute. But once I realized the importance of a census in the neighborhood, that's why we don't get the resources we need, because a lot of people don't fill them out. They don't even know the percentage of the people that they say is in the neighborhood is off. Because we're not filling out those census. You thinking everybody want to be in your business, the FBI. It's just the narrative of everything is just off. But you got to understand the politics is life. And if you want a better life, get into the politics and make it better.
I would also say that I think it's really important that we show up to the polls when we have these elections. It's not when we just have our presidential election when all eyes are on who's going to the White House, right? But it's who's sitting inside City Hall, who's our assembly members, who are representing our direct communities. And the reason why I say that also is because they are the ones who determine whose streets get repaved, whose money is going to after schools, who's getting those contracts, right? All of that is really determined by us going out to the polls. More or less also as well, sometimes we don't understand the power of something until it's taken away. Because down south right now, how many pieces of legislation? I think it's over 30-something pieces of legislation that there are certain people in power who are trying to make it harder for black communities to get to the ballot box by not giving somebody a bottle of water while they're waiting online just to go vote. So we have to continually remind ourselves of the unfortunate things that continue to plague our communities for us giving access to vote. And we know that how powerful the black vote is when it comes to our elections. So even if we're up north, let's just remember and remind ourselves that even as we would go to vote, that there are those who would try to even take away our vote. Let's make sure that we are continuing to gather like we are in this room. Let's gather the same way to the ballot box to make sure that we're not complaining about the issues, but that we're being active towards them.
I think one thing that I've realized is that politics does not impact all people in the same way. It impacts disenfranchised people the most: black people, women, queer people, trans people, etc. And so, we've seen it over the past 10 years in so many different ways. It should be something that we all see as an urgent matter, more so than a lot of different groups of people. We are, we're amongst ourselves in this room, but most of America is white. Most of America does not look like this room. They have a different agenda, and even if we show up in humongous numbers, we will still be outnumbered in a lot of ways at the polls, at all sorts of things that revolve around politics. And so I think it is a very urgent matter for us to think about and prioritize, especially for these big moments.
I'm going to approach this in a different manner because I have an actual life. I think as a community, we have to learn to police ourselves and come up with policies that work for ourselves that then we bring to the politicians. I come from a gangster rap background. I don't know if some of y'all know I've said some of the hardest things in the history of saying hard things. But then I also realize what needs to be done in my community. And instead of going to ask politely, I demanded politely. Because the politicians need you. You have power. We have to have the political power in our own community say, this needs to be in our community. And if somebody's scared to lose a seat, lose a vote, lose a position, and there's enough of us together, they're gonna listen. They're gonna listen. They have no choice. So I've been able, just last week, I was standing side by side by the mayor. I remember 2018 going to City Hall, walking myself up in City Hall and going, we're gonna have to redo these parks. We're gonna have to put workout stations. You know, eventually we're gonna have to do some farming, some growing. 9 parks in. 9 parks in where I'm from now. 9 parks in. And it's not because I'm a powerful political person, because I understand the power of my community. Understanding the power of your community gets you to go, all right, if we was all from the same, 7 of us right here from the same district, and we go, all right, this is what we want to happen, this is what we don't want to happen, here's who we're going to address, and here's how we're going to go about it. We may lose, but we're going to look strong, and then we're going to win next time, because you need a little unity. So we're talking about politics, but we're not talking about unity in the community first and wanting to see our community do better. When there's enough of us who really, literally want to see our community do better, then run up on City Hall with what our issues are, there will be change.
I don't want nobody to get mad at me, but before we end this, we're going to have 2 young people ask questions to the panel, and then we're going to ask the panelists for 5 words of encouragement. They can give out resources that they may know of to help young people, black men, anybody in this room, and then we will end it because we have something going on in the next room.
Thank you to my brothers at NAN Youth College for putting this amazing panel together. My name is Monet Smith, social entrepreneur, nonprofit founder in Brooklyn that does youth and criminal justice work with kids in the city. My question stems to something I was thinking during this panel, something that my pastor said recently, is that faith, fear, which is a lack of faith, stems from a lack of confidence in your abilities and a lack of self-esteem. And I think that economic self-esteem allowed us to our communities today to create our own cultural definitions of what success is, which we define success, and we kind of make the collard greens of a bad situation in defining success is, if I can reach the traditional American sense of economic success, our new defined definition of success is gangbang, or like street drill, or like different things like that. So I guess that itself, especially in the young community, as we age to a more image-bound society, what is your perspective on kind of tackling our community's redefined success, which kind of comes from street culture?
Wow.
That was very powerful.
I can rephrase, sorry. Basically, how do we tackle the new modern generation's definition of success being street culture, which comes from, you know, us not being able to attain the traditional American sense?
We change what street culture is about. And I think it starts with that. Like, being myself, as I said, for those who know me, I'm one of the most gangster rappers that has ever lived.
Beloved.
But I'm here now. So I think it's taking on where you come from, seeing yourself in a different light, and then being able to spread that message to other people. I think success in our community is understanding how soulful, how powerful we are, and then working on that. I also think success comes with, I didn't want to get on this, but how we eat and how we treat ourselves and how we treat our body. Because what we're basing things on is a lot of us have chemical imbalances that we don't check, because as people of color, we have the most diabetes, we have the most high blood pressure, we have the worst heart rates, prenatal issues, things of this nature. So we're not taking care of our health, which means now we're looking at success from the wrong point of view. Now we're making success strictly financial. Financial success comes along with how you feel about yourself, what's good, what's going on with you, and the better you feel, the better chance you have at making a better decision. The better chance you have at having better ideas. Most of us come from neighborhoods that are food deserts. So instead of running to McDonald's, no disrespect to McDonald's or whatever fast food place or the liquor store, now it's about saying, let me learn how to eat right, treat my people right, spread that message. That changes the trajectory of how the community looks at success. That comes from just having money and saying, I have money, I'm successful. We have to change that to I have a healthy black family. I got a roof over my head, I got food, I got a job, I'm successful. Then you begin to flourish. So I think the street culture changes with all of us being unified, and people who are not in the street culture staying in contact with people who are in the street culture, and then getting together and going, our people's culture is the most important culture. And I think we're doing that, and we just have to continue to keep doing that.
Good job. Thank you. And listen, we got to give it up for Monet in that question, man. She had the best question of the day. Let's give it up for our sis. You know, the other thing you could do really quick is to think about it this way, is that you all are the future. You all can define what success looks like for the future now. Right? You don't have to do it the way we did it. You don't have to look at success from the same perspective we did. It's what you all are going to say it is, and that's what this whole organization is about. This is what y'all are doing today is all about, is that you all create the new narrative of what success looked like, what it sounds like, what it feels like, what it smells like. It's on you guys now. Like, don't listen. Some of us, I mean, Styles said it. Like, some of us have done some things back then that y'all don't want to actually emulate the stuff that was done. You all have a unique opportunity to create that idea of what success looks like and be able to pluck the greatness which is in our community and say, that's how we judge success nowadays. No one needs to define it for you all anymore. It's on you guys now. And we just here to support. We here to be the voice for you all, but you all actually are the ones who are going to define what success really is.
First and foremost, I'm going to say this. They called us the OGs, okay? So our street culture is way different than y'all's. Way different. You know, and right now, I just want to say real quick, get off of demon time and get on God's time.
Thank you. For my last question, there's a saying in my village that when an elder passes away, a library is burned. But the second part of that quote is that it's on the community to make sure those books in those libraries gets to a new book. And so what I want to ask is, and I don't need a page from a book, just a couple lines from your book, if they're to the young people, young black men, if there's just a quote, a rap lyric, whatever, something short and simple, what would you tell them for them to move on into their life, adult life?
That's the panel. Well, maybe I'll try to tackle it by giving you this is my signature poem. It's called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." The revolution will not be televised. I can remember when that statement made me sad inside. Too young to be in it. Now I couldn't even see it. Why? Why couldn't the revolution be televised? The last poets, Gil Scott Heron. As I grew up, I began to see. They left theirs, and I too wanted to leave a mark on history. A man in half, and I wanted to bask in that task that set men free. But a revolution, the revolution, is where I knew I had to be. The revolution will not be televised. They didn't want to display the victory of those quote-unquote lesser men. The revolution will not be televised. Smile. I know, because I am the revolution. And so when young people read that poem, they're reading that they are the revolution. And I want them to know that. I want them to know that all of the things that will be is right in their hands. right? And the other thing, too, is don't be afraid. Fear, this is not me, this is not my words. Fear is false evidence appearing real. And once you conquer that fear, you realize, you're like, what was I afraid of? If it's in you to do it, do it. But you have to do it. And if you don't do it, we will be deprived of the great things that lies within you.
Now we're going to start from the left to the right. I need 5 words from all of the panelists, something to leave the people at the convention with. So 5 words that go like this: I love beautiful black people, something like that. Just 5 words.
That's very specific.
That's right. It's me. Brothers, unity, commitment, love, accountability.
Echo, you are the revolution.
Fortitude, strength, hope, courage, determination.
Got me doing math now.
Hold on, it's my turn anyway. You got time to count. I love you dearly, my beloveds.
See, that's a rapper there, man. He already had his bars ready.
Love, set trends, set tones.
Be the change you want to see.
We'll take that as 1 word.
That was 1 word. Want to see.
All right. I'm proud to be black.
Wow. That's how you end it. That's how you end it. That's a principle.
Come on now.
Yes, yes.
Give him a round of applause. Give.
That's right, baby. Yes.
Okay, before you all start moving, we're going to do like the last time. Security, hold the doors. We're going to take a picture, get close, act like you love each other. 1 minute.